All right, welcome back to the cab. Tonight, I think I'm going to do a video about how to stay in a good lane, places you shouldn't go, or maybe you should if the money's right. Things of that nature, because this load I'm on right now ends in Waco, Texas, which is not exactly a great place to haul out a load out of. Um, a good place to haul a load out of is Houston, or pretty much any border city. Edinburgh, McAllen, Laredo, Eagle Pass, or Houston area is probably the best I've seen to haul uh, loads out of Texas, because that's where the freight is. The reason Houston's a good place to haul out of, because it's a port city. There's lots of goods coming into Houston. There's more goods coming in than going out, and that's the market we want to find. Just like I showed you Laredo, how many warehouses, and I mean, if you've never been to Laredo, it's amazing how many trucks are there. So there's more freight pouring over the border than going down into Laredo. So that's a good place. Any of the borders. So San Antonio, Dallas, you name it. They consume more than they ship out. So that's why maybe they're a good place to come into, but they're not a good place to go out of. And so this load I'm on it was a good paying load. It's got a lot of stops, but it ends in Waco, which is not good. So here I'm sitting thinking, what should I do? And there's lots of factors that go into this. Well, what's your time schedule look like? That's more than anything. And so these are the times where if you don't know what your cost per mile is, then there's no way if you don't know your cost per mile, then it's a guessing game whether you're going to make money, whether it's worth. I just looked at this. I know I'm going on and on. It's 300, according to this, it's 336 miles from Waco to Laredo. And so most people would think, wow, that's crazy to deadhead all the way from Waco to Laredo. But is it? Because if I know my cost per mile, I know exactly what it's going to cost me to deadhead down there. And so I use DAT. I've always used DAT for my backhauls. That's the only load board I've ever used, so I can't say anything about whatever truck stop or whatever. But I've got I don't know what you call it, the premium version. It shows the 15-day average of what loads have been paying leaving a certain area or a certain lane. Say Laredo to Indianapolis market, they'll have a rate what it's been paying for the last 15 days. Laredo to Louisville market, it'll have another rate. And so you can kind of get a feel. That's not the gospel to go off of, but it will give you a general idea of what freight's been paying the last 2 weeks leaving that area. And so I'm sitting here thinking, this is more than likely my last load out of the year. That's why I took this long run. It's not a super long run, but it's 20 stops, and it started in Alabama. It's going to go all the way to Texas and scattered in between everywhere. But anyway, it's 20 stops. It's take me 3.5 days to do this load, but that's why I did it. And this is going to be different for everybody. I'm booked out 2 weeks in advance, so I've always got to be thinking about my next move. If I take a super long run, like if I knew I was going to work the week after this trip, I would probably be thinking I need to take something a little bit shorter, or I'm going to start getting behind. And what you don't want to happen, because none of these places are open on the weekend, what you don't want to happen is you run out of time and you still got stops left, and then you're stuck there for the weekend, which I've never had that happen. I've had some close calls, but it's never happened yet. And so you've always got to be kind of planning with that stuff. So yeah, you've got to know your cost per mile, and then it's just math. There's no other thing. I know exactly what it's going to cost me to go down to Laredo, and you think so when you've got the 15-day average, you can look what is leaving Waco back to home versus Laredo back to home, and subtract what it's going to cost you to deadhead down there. Then you'll know your answer. And then it all comes back it comes down to time. Are you going to have, depending on what's happening the next week, are you going to have time to do that? So that's what I'm always thinking about. So basically, I don't have a dedicated customer, but that's why I've got two trailers, because while I'm working, they're loading the other one for the week after. And then when I get home, all I have to do is drop my empty and hook onto my loaded. The paperwork's on the back of it, and you're gone again. So that's what I always kind of know. I already know what I'm going to do the next week while I'm doing this one. So I know I'm rambling on. Like I mentioned before, if you do go into a bad area, you've got to be paid well to go in there, which is fine. And a lot of people, they get all bent out of shape about hauling cheap freight. If you're coming out of Miami, especially with a dry van, don't expect anything more than $1 a mile. Maybe not even $1 a mile. And actually, I think I hauled a load, I think, for like 95 cents one time. Because I think I had the time, and it always comes down to time. What is it gonna? You don't want to haul something cheap to screw your next week up. So I had the time available, and what I did a lot of times, if time didn't allow, is I would leave Miami, because I'd made good money going down in Miami hauling furniture. So I already knew it. I was already planned ahead of time. If time allowed, I would haul a cheap load from Miami back to Atlanta. If time didn't allow, I did head to Atlanta, because it's crazy. The loads out of Atlanta pay the same or more than coming out of Miami. I can't even remember how many miles that is. Is that 600 miles? I don't even, yeah, probably 500-600 miles. I don't know. Somebody have to look that up. But so what you want to do, it's called taking your backhaul with you. And so what I would do is Google Maps is a great tool, because figure up how many miles you're going to have in to wherever you end at. Let's just use Miami as an example. So you would figure up your miles from wherever you pick up the load, all your miles you're going to run until you deliver it. And then say, you're going to load out of Atlanta, figure those miles back into Atlanta, and use it and then think, I pretty much know what I'm going to get out of Atlanta. Roll it all up into one thing, and then that will tell you how much money you need for going down into Miami. So you're kind of, what I've always heard it called is you're taking your backhaul with you, because you cannot go down there cheap. And that's where a lot of guys that are new, they'll see that $3 a mile going to Miami, and then you're coming out with nothing. And but anyway, I know some people probably think hauling a 95-cent load's crazy, but I know what my cost per mile is, and I'm still making money with that. I'm not going to say what my cost per mile is. I just don't want to let every cat out of the bag. But I know exactly what mine is, and I can still be profitable hauling a 95-cent mile. This is another thing I heard. The cheapest load you can haul is an empty trailer. So if I went back to Atlanta for nothing, that's a lot worse than hauling a 95-cent load, right? But like I said, it all comes down to time. Am I going to have to sit in the dock for 5 hours for a 95-cent load? I wouldn't do it then. So that's where another thing is. The more you do something, maybe you could get a good connection with somebody, start hauling the same freight out of the same place, and then you'll pretty much know. I remember exactly what that was. It was a load of printer paper out of Miami that went back to Atlanta, and it worked out pretty good. It was a heavy load, but pretty, Florida, Georgia, it's flat ground, so it was, anybody that's ever hauled printer paper, it's heavy. It's pretty much printer paper and water. Seems like they're the two heaviest things you can haul. But it's not that far. They loaded me fast, unloaded me fast. I loaded out of Atlanta for I think the same money or more, and that went right back home. So it all comes with experience, and but that's the real thing. If you can get you a nice customer, or even, like I said, I'm just dealing with a broker on everything. And so if you can get you a good broker that you can get good money going into an area where you can get good freight of, that's the ultimate, because everybody knows. Like, say where I live, if I try to take a load down to Laredo, it pays nothing. pays absolutely nothing because they know that's where people are trying to get down there. And again, I looked at the loads from Waco to Laredo. Again, they're in the 95-cent range, where they're not paying anything because they know everybody's trying to get down to the border where the good freight is, and they know they're willing to take a beating on it. So I might end up taking a, I don't know, $400 load from Waco to Laredo if time allows, if it looks like everything's going to work out with it. But I don't want to mess myself up loading 3 or 4 hours and then unloading 3 or 4 hours for $400. That doesn't make sense. So more than likely I'll probably deadhead down there, because in this certain situation I know that's another thing I forgot to mention. I don't like loading out of Laredo on Thursdays because I don't think they like to ship out of there on Thursdays going back to where I live, because you cannot make it there in one day, and people will try to beat more money out of them because they've got to hold the load for the weekend. What I've seen at least, pretty much any day, but it seems like Wednesday and Friday, because Monday's kind of a off day because everybody's getting going. I guess Tuesday, if it's a 2-day run, Monday and Thursdays more than likely would be your worst days, because Monday they're just getting going. Thursday, they know if you load it down in Laredo, or just, this is an example, if you load it in Laredo and you're going to Indianapolis, they know you can't make it there in a day unless it's with a team, which of course they're going to have to pay more. So what they'll like to do is either on a Wednesday, because they know you can get it there in 2 days, or load it on a Friday, and they know, they know there's no way you can make it in a day. There's no whining about holding it over the weekend, because you're kind of happy just to get out of there. At least this is my thinking. The end of the month generally is a good time to load out of places, and then this week right here, this is the week before Christmas, so a lot of people want to be staying home. I have a feeling I'm gonna load out on Friday, so we got one good thing going. The next week's Christmas, that's a good thing, and what was the other thing? And we're coming out of a good market. So there's 3 things. It's already good anyway. Most of the time, it's actually gotten better. It was getting pretty grim down there for a while. So we're coming out of a good market anyway. We're right at Christmas, and we're on a Friday, and we're getting close to the month. So we kind of got 4 things working for us. So more than likely, I will deadhead down to Laredo, and I will be sitting there I will either have something booked on Thursday waiting on me, or I will be setting there on setting down in Laredo, more than likely at the TA, come Friday morning, and I have a feeling I'm going to get a good load out of there, and then I will be taking it home more than likely, and probably delivering it on Monday. And yeah, I think it will be a real good way to end the year. So I'll let you know how it ends up, and I appreciate everybody watching. See you later.